Dragon Warrior 2 has a reputation for being the most difficult game in the series, and one of the most challenging RPGs for the NES. The original Dragon Warrior, known as Dragon Quest in Japan, had managed to simplify the complex ideas of PC role-playing games into an intuitive format that could be played with a controller instead of a keyboard. The original is a true classic, but the one-on-one battles don't provide a lot of strategic depth, and leveling up can be tedious. The original Dragon Quest was also a huge success, selling over 2 million copies, so developer Chunsoft was excited to create a sequel. Luckily, Yuji Horii, the lead designer from the first game, had a ton of ideas for a Dragon Quest sequel, and had begun planning the second game a month before the first one had released. Dragon Warrior 2 takes place 100 years after the events of the previous game. Over the course of a century, the world got a lot bigger, so much so that the world of the first game is included as just a small part of the map. It's so much bigger that you'll need a ship to navigate the game's vast oceans. Instead of just fighting one monster at a time, you'll face groups of up to 8, but you won't have to do it alone. Over the course of the game, you'll recruit 2 allies, so you'll get to command a party of 3 characters this time. Those characters were designed by Dragon Ball artist Akira Toriyama, lending his trademark style to the project. With about 4 times as many different monster designs as the original game, it was one of the largest projects he had ever worked on. Also returning was Dragon Quest composer Koichi Sugiyama, who had once again created an outstanding soundtrack. Dungeons feel threatening while the music at sea is peaceful. In a game where players might want to grind levels for hours, the soundtrack is a critical part of the experience. Speaking of spending hours leveling up, while the Dragon Warrior games are known for being grind heavy, if you're playing smart, you won't have to do much grinding in this game at all. Director Koichi Nakamura, who was also the president of Chunsoft, had hoped to complete development in about 1 year, but early versions of the game were just too difficult, and some extra time was needed to rebalance. On top of that, many of the programmers working on the game were inexperienced, so Nakamura had to do a lot of the programming himself. All of that hard work paid off when Dragon Quest II released in Japan in January of 1987. The game flew off of shelves, selling over 500,000 copies in days, and by the end of the year, it had sold over 2 million copies, surpassing the sales of the original. Publisher Enix and Nintendo of America created a stellar English translation that is surprisingly funny. Translating a game with this much text was a tall order, so the North American version wasn't released until September of 1990, over 3 years later. The game found some fans in North America, but despite the great translation, it was never close to as popular as it was in Japan. There are many reasons why Dragon Warrior 2 wasn't as popular in the US, and a big one was Final Fantasy. In Japan, Final Fantasy came out in December of 1987, about a year after Dragon Quest II. In the United States, however, Final Fantasy beat Dragon Warrior 2 to the punch, releasing in July of 1990, about 3 months earlier. Final Fantasy featured a similarly large world and let players control a party of 4 characters against up to 9 monsters at a time. Many North American RPG fans weren't even half finished with Final Fantasy when Dragon Warrior 2 debuted. In modern times, Dragon Warrior 2 is one of the less popular games in the series, but with its great writing, exciting battles, and an amazing soundtrack, Dragon Warrior 2 is a fun game to explore and should not be missed by fans of turn-based RPGs. There have been many updates and re-releases of this game on the Game Boy Color, Nintendo Wii, iOS and Android, and even the Nintendo Switch. These new versions don't just update the graphics, but also some changes have been made that generally make the game easier. These new versions are great, but sadly a lot of the glitches and tricks from the NES original will not work here. Modern players that attempt this game will still have to deal with all of the challenges the NES is notorious for. Random encounters with enemies can catch you off guard, and there are some places like the Hork Pit where they attack very frequently. If you make even one bad move, it could be game over. But what if I told you easy ways to make money fast so you can start the game with the best equipment? What if I showed you a secret trick to avoid all random encounters so you can explore the game freely? And what if I told you how to defeat every boss? Even Hargan himself? Well, on today's episode of You Can Beat Video Games, we'll learn all of that and more. If you're new to the channel, we're doing deep dives on retro video games and giving you the professional strategies that can be used by the casual gamer. Please make sure to subscribe and check out youcanbeatvideogames.com for episode lists, news, and official You Can Beat Video Games merchandise. Let's get started. Alright, Dragon Warrior 2. As the title screen loads up, we see the three characters from the game march forward, all holding a torch, which is interesting because in this game, torches have been eliminated. Whenever we go into a dungeon this time, unlike in the first game, you won't have to worry about having a torch item or casting a radiant spell to be able to see. Everything will just look normal. So that is a nice improvement right off the bat. And another change is that whatever name you put in doesn't actually make a big difference this time. It will affect the names of the other two characters, which you don't get to directly pick, but they will be chosen based on what name you put in at the beginning. If you've watched this channel before, you may know that the dog's name is Kylo Renly Baratheon, and that's why we're naming our hero Kylo. Our story begins 100 years after the events of the first game, and it starts here in the peaceful kingdom of Moonbrooke. Or at least it seemed peaceful before the day that Hargan attacked. We don't actually know. We just assume that this guy Hargan is evil because he rolls with a gang of demons, and yeah, that usually is a bad sign, but we don't know what's going on from his perspective. Maybe the king of Moonbrooke is a terrible despot and makes his people eat garbage or something. They do have to live in a swamp, so I can't imagine that the living conditions are great for the common folk. Or maybe they're embroiled in some kind of trade disagreement and the king of Moonbrooke struck first. We don't actually know. What we can tell for sure is that the kingdom of Moonbrooke was not prepared for an assault by demons of this level. Although actually they're probably not demons. Based on events later in the game, these guys are actually gremlins. So their best bet against gremlins is probably to use bright lights and to keep them away from water at all costs. When one of the gremlins threatens the princess of Moonbrooke, the king makes a desperate play to rescue her. And although the king is a very capable fighter and is able to defeat one gremlin, Hargan is sending just way too many. When two gremlins appear on his flank, the king takes a mortal wound and dies. No, father, no! The gremlins continue to teleport into the castle, probably using the spell of return. They should not have let them save here. That was their big mistake. This small band of soldiers is the last hope for the castle. And it seems that this one soldier actually survives because he gets a critical hit. He has to hurry to Midenhall, another kingdom, and tell them what happened. They said I was daft to build a castle in the swamp, but I built it all the same, just to show them. And it burnt down and fell into the swamp. For a guy that's clearly wounded, he made the walk from Moonbrooke Castle to Midenhall Castle in record time. When you see the actual map of this game, those two places are very far apart. If this guy's wound is serious, before he goes and sees the king, he should just go to the House of Healing, or even to the store to get a medical herb. At the House of Healing, they can bring people back to life that were ghosts, so I'm sure they could do something for this guy. Maybe this guy just didn't have insurance and was worried about the high medical bills, so instead he goes and talks to the king, tells him what happened to the kingdom of Moonbrooke, and then promptly croaks right in front of us. It turns out in a strange twist that this guy was some kind of Jedi, because when he dies, he just disappears. It looks like it's time for our hero to set out on an adventure. As we take control of our character for the first time, we can chat with some people here in the throne room, and we'll notice that one of the big upgrades for the second game is a more streamlined approach to the menus. We no longer have to do a special command just to use the stairs. All you have to do is walk onto them. Nice. The king tells us that we need to open up this treasure chest and that we should seek companions from the kingdoms of Cannock and Moonbrooke. Although the kingdom of Moonbrooke just kind of burnt to the ground, so I'm a little bit concerned about finding companions from there. So we're going to check out the kingdom of Cannock first. This guy tells us that we should remember to equip our weapons, and that is good advice. Make sure to equip that copper sword, and you want to choose the leather armor even though it's already equipped. If you don't, it will unequip it, and then you won't get the benefits from it anymore. This guy tells us that there's a town to the west called Leftwyne, and that's where we're going to be going to first. Inside this room, we'll see two locked doors that we won't be able to open yet, so we won't be able to get to those treasure chests right now. If we head over here though, there are some interesting features that we can see. There's a guy down here that has a clue for us. He tells us that there's a prince in Cannock and that the princess of Moonbrooke could be somebody that might join our party, although we could have probably figured that out from the speech the king just gave us. And this guy tells us about travel doors. The travel door is a teleporter tile, and this one just takes us to this small island that we can't really do anything with at this point in the game, although later on whenever we get the ship we may be able to take advantage of that travel door, and there will certainly be other travel doors that we'll use in the game that will take us to various locations. Down at the bottom we can pet a friendly dog, and although this dog isn't very important, dogs will play a prominent role in the story, which is something that I definitely like about this game. There's not a lot of variety here at the store, just medical herbs and antidote herbs. We don't have a ton of money anyway, and nothing is going to poison us at the very beginning of the game, so if you want to be extra safe, just pick up 3 medical herbs, and we're going to make our way to the town of Leftwyne. As we make our way to the town of Leftwyne, if you do encounter any enemies, you can try to fight them. You might be a little bit weak against a bunch of iron ants, and we're not far enough away from Midenhall Castle right now to have to fight iron ants. But if you do encounter them, you may want to run away just to be safe. You actually have a 66% chance of success whenever you run, so that's 2 out of 3. Which means that running is a very viable strategy in this game, so anytime you see a set of monsters that just looks too dangerous, don't feel bad about running away. Now, a single slime, this guy's not going to deal us a lot of damage, so make sure to fight enemies like this, but we're just trying to make our way to the town of Leftwyne. Normally in this game, you would probably try to build up a few levels around the castle, but I'm going to show you a strategy that's going to allow you to get a ton of money and then we're going to be able to purchase much better equipment, and we'll be able to fight much stronger monsters. To do the trick, we're going to come to the item vendor here and then sell everything that our hero has so that we have a wide open inventory. Once we've done that, we're going to use the money that we have to purchase as many antidote herbs as we can. Each time we purchase an antidote herb, we're going to have a 1 in 6 chance of getting a lottery ticket. Now, the lottery tickets are used to play a slot machine game, but here's the secret about the lottery tickets. We can sell them back to the store for $53. Each time we buy an antidote herb, it costs us 8 gold, and whenever we sell it back for 6, so each time we buy one, we're only spending 2 gold. That means that it only costs 2 gold per chance, and whenever we get a lottery ticket, we get 53. So to lose money on this deal, we would have to randomly miss 26 times in a row. And that's just extremely unlikely to happen. Now, if you're feeling unlucky, take a walk in a circle around and then come back to the store, but it's just straight odds. Make sure that you're counting how many items you buy too, and you gotta count the lottery ticket each time. Whenever you have 7 items, you don't want to buy the 8th item because then you won't be able to hold a lottery ticket. So make sure to only buy 7 items into your inventory, sell them all. You're going to sell any lottery tickets that you have. We're not going to actually play the lottery game. And if you do this for a while, you will notice that you'll start to gain money. And we want to get about 1,000 money. It would be great. You don't actually need that much, but we want to buy, if possible, the chain sickle, the chain mail, and the leather shield. Now you can probably cheap out on the leather shield and just focus on buying that after you accumulate some money from fighting enemies or opening treasure chests. But if you at least get the chain sickle and the chain mail, we are going to be very powerful when we go out there and start fighting monsters again. I'm not really sure how these stores stay in business. This would be like if you went to McDonald's and you got one of those Monopoly pieces, but instead of opening it up and just getting buy one get one free Egg McMuffins, you could sell it back to McDonald's for $53. Yeah, they would go out of business in minutes. Now, if you feel like taking advantage of the lottery is cheating and you would rather just walk around and fight slugs and slimes to try to build up money, you can, but you need to understand that the enemies in this game barely drop any money at all, and building up significant money in this game will take forever fighting low-level monsters. I like this bit where if you talk to the guy in the lower right corner, you scare him, and that cures his hiccups. There are actually some good clues that you could find if you talk to the people in this town. This guy tells us about a monolith that leads to the kingdom of Moonbrooke. We will need to head over towards Moonbrooke later in the game, so we will want to look for that monolith eventually. For now, we're going to stay at the inn, and we need to make our way to the castle of Cannock. Hopefully we'll be able to find the prince there that will join our team, and then we won't just be one character anymore. As we exit the town, we're attacked by a monster, and that's something that can happen. There's a 33% chance that you will face an encounter anytime that there's a transition, so you do need to be very ready anytime you leave a town or go through a stairway in a dungeon. Things like that are very likely to generate a monster. As we head north to the castle, remember that the terrain that you walk on influences the rate at which you encounter monsters. We're going to have the lowest encounter rate of 4% whenever we walk in the light green grass or in the bumpy green brush. If you walk in the forested, desert, or swamp areas, then it's going to go up to 6%, and if you walk in the brown hills, that'll take it all the way up to 10%, so you want to avoid those when possible. And it looks like we have gained our first level. Fighting those iron ants would have been tough if we didn't have all the good equipment that we got from doing the lottery trick, So if you didn't do that trick, you probably want to run away from 3 iron ants when you're at level 1, but you can definitely fight them if you have good equipment. Here in Cannock Castle, we'll hear about the prince, who is going to be the second member of our team, but unfortunately he's not here right now. We can actually talk to the prisoners through their cell doors, and this guy tells us about a silver key, and the guy at the bottom, well, he has a very nihilistic view of the world. Eventually we'll get the jailer's key, which can open up doors like that, but those guys will never say anything different even if we have the jailer's key. So for now, we're going to head up here and meet with the princess. The princess will ask us if we're friends with her brother, and no, we've never even met the guy. But apparently that's the wrong answer, so... hello, princess. I'm a totally different guy that is not the same guy you were just talking to, and I am a friend of your brother's. Well, then she has a good clue that he went off to the Spring of Bravery, which is the next place that we need to go, but first, it is very important that we talk to the king. If you don't talk to the king, we won't be able to advance the story whenever we go to the Spring of Bravery, so make sure to talk to him. And he'll also save the game for you, so if we die, we'll come back here instead of all the way back at Midenhall Castle, so it's a good time to save the game anyways. While it is required that you talk to the king, talking to the princess is optional, so once you've talked to him, we can leave Cannock Castle, but it would be a good idea to stop at the inn first and heal ourselves up. There's also a mysterious treasure chest hidden behind a gold door, but we don't have the gold key yet, so we are going to have to come back here later to get that treasure. We can talk to this old man before we leave. He tells us that the prince has studied in the ways of magic, but he's not that good with weapons. Well, okay. Thanks for setting our expectations very low. The item store has a few new items for us to buy, but we are pretty broke right now, so we're gonna save our cash. And the next thing we need to do is head to the east. That's where the Spring of Bravery is. As you make your way to the Spring of Bravery, you will encounter some monsters, and you just want to fight against most of them. The exception is if you meet a healer. Right now, we are not strong enough to deal significant damage to healers, and they're just going to be constantly healing themselves or healing the other monsters that they're paired with. So anytime that you see a healer, you just want to run away because that fight's going to drag on forever, and you don't want to get involved in it. Whenever you face a variety of monsters like this, you want to prioritize attacking the most dangerous monster that you can kill in a single hit first. The most important thing you can do in battle is reduce the number of turns that the monsters take, and the easiest way to do that is to kill them. And with that, we've leveled up to level 3. Now, our main hero in this game, unlike the one in the first Dragon Warrior, will never learn spells, so he's just going to be a tank. We're just going to be gaining stats in defense and strength and hit points. We'll never get magic points, we'll never learn spells, we're just a beater. Whenever we get more characters, the other two will have magic and they'll be a little bit more complex. So for now, the only choice that we need to make whenever we get into battles is should we fight or should we run? And if you see 3 babbles like this, you should probably run. Babbles are an enemy that can poison you, and if you're poisoned, you'll take 1 damage every 4 steps you take. Right now, we do not have a lot of health, so I recommend that you keep a couple of the antidote herbs that we were buying whenever we did the lottery ticket trick. So whenever you have enough money, just save a few of the antidote herbs, maybe 2 would be good. That way we can fight like 1 babble. You just don't want to fight a whole team of them because you'll almost definitely get poisoned. If you do decide to fight a group of enemies that includes a babble, you'll want to prioritize fighting the babble so that you can try to kill it before it poisons you. And it looks like we got to level 4. So our goal by the end of the Spring of Bravery is to be at level 5. Seems like we're doing pretty good so far. Whenever you're in a dungeon, you have a 3% chance per step to hit a monster, so it's actually a little bit lower than when you're outside. The big danger are on the transitions, as you can see right here. Whenever we transitioned into this room with the treasure chest, we got a fight. Whenever you fight a Drakey and an Iron Ant, you should prioritize the Iron Ant first. So take him out and then kill the Drakey. And you don't have to get this treasure chest. This is just a medical herb. One thing that's nice about this game, if you exit the dungeon and come back, all of the treasure chests will respawn, so you'll be able to collect the items again. There's a handful of items in this game that are unique items, so you'll only be able to find them once, but stuff like medical herbs or a chest full of gold, you'll be able to collect those as many times as you want. The way that we actually need to go in this dungeon is to head to the upper right corner and then cut back across to the left, so that's where we're going to go first. If we get any easy battles like 3 big slugs, we'll want to kill them for the experience points. If you do get down to lower hit points, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10, 11, 12, that's when you should consider using a medical herb, and you'll want to use it outside of battle so you won't have to waste your turns inside a battle using up herbs. I'm going to speed this one up because we know what to do against 3 Iron Ants, and they can barely damage us at this point, so they're not particularly dangerous. And at this point, yeah, we might as well use one of our herbs, although we are getting very close to the shrine attendant, and that guy will refill our health for free. So if you're very close, you might want to chance it. In any case, we're going to continue walking this way. We'll speed this battle up. The only battle that you need to be concerned about is one with a big cobra. The big cobra should be approached similarly to the babbles, because a big cobra can poison you. So if you don't have any antidote herbs in your inventory, you should be running anytime you see a cobra. Whenever we talk to this guy, we need to say yes, because that's going to advance the story. But if you talk to him and say no, which you can do both, then he'll heal up your hit points. So he'll restore you completely to full for free. That means that this is a great place for us to build up levels. We may want to stop over here to the left and grab this medical herb first. Speed up this battle with wild mice. We know what to do against them. But as long as you have at least one antidote herb in your inventory, then you don't have to worry about getting poisoned out. And there is a great place where we can level up over near where there's a screen transition. So I like to walk over here to the upper right corner. And remember, when there's a screen transition, that's a 33% chance of getting a fight. So you can just go back and forth right here and take as many battles as you want. Oh, and there's the big cobra. We do have an antidote, so we can take our chances with this guy. Right now it only takes 1 hit to kill him, and, well, there we are. We've made it to level 5. Level 5 was the goal here in the Spring of Bravery, so just continue fighting enemies here at the screen transition until you get to level 5, and if you ever get medium low on health, like down to the 20s, just take a little walk back over here to the shrine attendant. He will heal you for free, and then you can continue leveling up, and just keep doing that until you get to level 5. Now, there is one more treasure chest hidden here in the Spring of Bravery, so we'll head down there to grab it. We might as well try to get a few more experience points while we're here, and you can see that we now have 33 attack power. Now is a good time to explain how the damage works in this game. Whenever you attack a monster in this game, a very simple formula is applied. Monsters have a defense value, which you'll be able to see on their stats, which appear on the left side of the screen. An enemy like a big cobra has a defense of 10, so you take their defense value and divide it by 2, so 10 divided by 2 would be 5. Then you're going to take your attack score and subtract that number from it. So right now our attack score is 33, and if we subtract 5, we'll get 28. Whatever number you get there, divide that by 2, and that's going to give you what I will call your expected attack. So that's about how much damage you can expect to do, but you'll actually do a range based on a random number. So if you want to figure out what the minimum amount of damage you'll do, take the number you get and instead of dividing by 2, multiply by 0.21 to get the minimum, and multiply by 0.77 to get the maximum. So that's how it works. Once you have the last treasure chest in here, which is totally optional to get, you do have to backtrack out of the spring, so you will have to walk back to the entrance to get out of here. If you do die while you're in the Spring of Bravery, but you already talked to the guy who was the shrine attendant and said yes, if you did die, that's okay. Whenever you wake up back at Cannock Castle, then you will have satisfied the requirements here in the Spring of Bravery. But hopefully you can get out of here without dying, and if you do, we're just going to head back to the castle from here. Oh, and here's that healer. Before, when we were level 2 and 3, the healer was dangerous, but now that we're level 5 and have a chain sickle to attack with, we should be able to beat this guy. And you can see how obnoxious it is, it just keeps healing itself. But if we get 2 attacks in a row, well, that will finish off the healer, and we won't have to be too worried about those anymore. Although, do be cautious if healers appear with other monsters, because then they'll start healing those guys, so you want to prioritize your attacks on a healer whenever you see them, and avoid groups of multiple healers. This battle should be pretty easy. Take out that Babel first, of course, and then we'll finish off the Drakey. And we're just trying to get a few more experience points as we head back to the castle. Make sure to stay up here and go across the bridge. The desert and the mountains are a little bit more treacherous to cross, but this is still the faster way to get back to the castle. And once we get back to the castle, we'll be able to use the inn, and then we're going to be setting off for the town of Leftwyne, because unfortunately the Prince of Cannock is not at Cannock Castle again. He's actually down in the town of Leftwyne. That's where we're going to meet him. But it's much closer to get to the castle first, so we should stop there first, use the inn, and then make our journey down to Leftwyne. This will probably be the last battle that we have to face before we get back to the castle, but you should never take that for granted. There is a random chance that you'll hit a monster with every single step that you take, so you should always be prepared for the possibility that you could be attacked multiple times, even in a very small span of terrain. Oh, we got a critical hit this time. Critical hits don't happen very often, and they ignore monsters' defenses. So whenever you get them, they will be very effective, especially against monsters that have a high defense stat. And we got to level 6, so just by fighting the enemies that we had to face randomly, we were able to level up one whole time just leaving the Spring of Bravery. We'll stay here at the inn. That's the only thing that we actually needed to do here. It's not a terrible idea to talk to the king and save the game though, because then if you do die between here and the town of Leftwyne, you could reset and you won't lose your money. But we don't have too much money that we're holding right now, so the penalty wouldn't be that big of a deal if we died and just wanted to kind of roll with it. So you'll have to make that decision if you do die. Keeping the experience points that you gained from a few battles could be worth it over losing the money. I didn't bother saving the game because for a level 6 character with the equipment that we have, we should have no problem walking from Cannock Castle down to Leftwyne, even if we had to take an encounter on almost every space. These monsters can barely damage us, and pretty much everything that we would have to fight, we should be able to kill in a single hit. So anything that we encounter here should be a breeze. We'll stay in the grassy or brushy areas so that we don't have to fight too many encounters. And once we get into the town, we're going to see a strange character over in the inn. That is the Prince of Cannock, and we just have to talk to him to get him to join our party. Nice. The Prince of Cannock's name is Artho, but if you didn't name your main hero Kylo, he might have a different name in your game. Regardless, whenever you look at his status, you'll notice right away that he has MP already and can cast the heal spell. He also only has a 12 attack, which is not very impressive, especially with the club weapon that he comes with. We can go to the item store, sell all of his stuff, and then start buying antidote herbs so that we can try to get lottery tickets, and we can use our lottery ticket money to buy some better items for Artho. And I do recommend that we do this, but we don't have to go quite as crazy as we did the first time. It's a little bit more cumbersome buying items when you have two people, because the vendor always asks you who's going to carry the item. So yeah, that's going to slow you down when all you're really trying to do is buy a bunch of antidotes in hopes that you'll get that 1 in 6 chance of finding a lottery ticket, and then we'll be able to sell that lottery ticket back to the store for 53 gold pieces, and that will help us build up a bunch of money. If you can get to roughly 700 gold, a little bit less will be fine, you'll be able to purchase the magic knife and the chainmail, although if you have the time, you may want to get the leather shield as well. The Prince of Cannock can equip all of the different weapons and armor at this store, although the Prince of Midenhall can equip all weapons and armor everywhere. The Prince of Cannock normally will have some things that he won't be able to put on. Obviously, it would be better if you could get him the chain sickle, that would deal more damage, but there's a good reason to get the magic knife. Number one, Artho's not going to be super impressive in combat no matter what, but number two, whenever we get the third character, we're going to want to pass that magic knife to her. Regardless of what weapon you give the Prince of Cannock, he's not going to be that impressive in combat, but he will prove his worth because he has heal magic. The heal magic only costs 3 MP, which is extremely low. He can cast it twice right here at level 1, and although it restores fewer points of health than a medical herb, it's reusable and it doesn't take up inventory slots, so you'll be very happy to have a character in your party that can cast heal magic. Do your best to try to do your healing when you're outside of battle so you're not wasting turns on it. It's actually better for Artho to parry instead of having to cast a heal in battle. If you head over here to this far left patch, you can fight slightly more dangerous enemies over here, but you can certainly handle these ones with a level 6 hero character. Just be careful, Artho may not be able to do a lot of damage to some enemies that have more armor, but he's going to be very capable against things like these Drakies and the big slugs. So if you head over here, just keep trying to fight some enemies, and we basically want to level Artho up until he's at level 2 or level 3, and then we'll be able to move on, and he won't be quite as vulnerable as he is at level 1. It also doesn't take very long to level him up to level 2, so as soon as you get him powered up, you may want to stop back into town to use the inn, and then we'll be able to refill his magic points, and you'll notice that he has a lot more magic points once he gets to level 2. So that one level up is a pretty good upgrade for Artho. You'll also notice that the inn costs more money now. The inn charges per person, and you can't pretend that you're just one person and then let the other people sneak into the inn later. You will have to pay the full price. So that was the early game level grind. We won't have to grind levels again until we get the third character. And watch out whenever you exit a town. Remember that sometimes whenever you're on those transitions, you have a good chance of meeting some monsters. This battle's pretty easy. Try to eliminate monsters so that they can't take their turns. We're still doing that. And try to keep your health high between battles. You may have noticed that Artho now has 12 magic points, which means he can cast his heal magic 4 times. For the most part, if you only see one enemy, especially here in the early game, one enemy is not a major threat. It's whenever you have to fight large groups of enemies that they get dangerous. So you should be able to handle any single enemy groups that you see. We can take a quick pit stop here in Cannock Castle. It might be a good idea to talk to the king and save the game, and also to use the inn, because from here we're going to be headed to another dungeon, This one is the tunnel to Hamlin. Hamlin is the next town that we need to get to, but it's kind of far away. It's over near where Moonbrooke Castle is, and it's in the town of Hamlin that we're going to find our third character. As you exit the castle, you want to head to the west across this forest. Fight any monsters that you see. We're still trying to build up some more levels on Artho, but we might as well do it as we're adventuring. So just keep heading this way, and something that you may have been wondering, now that we have two characters, how do the monsters decide who to attack? Well, they're basically just flipping a coin. In later versions of the game, they may assign different priorities to different characters, but in the NES version, it's all even. And with that battle, Artho has leveled up to level 3. And at level 3 he gets the Fireball spell, and he gets to be extremely useful now. He wasn't able to do a very good attack before, but Fireball magic ignores enemies' defenses. So although it costs 2 magic points, which is quite a bit for somebody that only has 12, the Fireball magic will be very useful moving forward. You're going to want to save your magic points for the more difficult enemies that we'll find on the other side of the tunnel, so don't waste your Fireball magic on Drakeys and big slugs. Just attack these guys, and if there's only one left, you can have Artho parry, which will prevent half of any damage that's dealt to him. We want to head into this monolith, and down in that stairway, that's going to lead us into the tunnel. Now this guy tells us that there's a monolith south of the castle of Midenhall, and that's a place that we're going to go to later, but there's no point in going to it now. We don't have the key that we need to get through. In this tunnel, there's a path over on the left side. That path leads to a false exit, and you don't want to go that way. Instead, you want to stay on the right, follow the path, and eventually you'll come to the stairway that will lead you out. But before that, it seems that we're being challenged by not 1, not 2, but 3 big cobras. So this is kind of dangerous. We don't have a ton of antidote herbs, and although the Prince of Cannock will eventually learn the antidote magic, we don't have it just yet. So we can use an herb, we'll get rid of the poison, and then we're going to heal to make sure that we don't die. If a character dies in this game, it's going to be hard to revive them. We'll be able to get an item later in the game to revive them, the Leaf of the World tree, and much later in the game we'll get revive magic. But until we get those things, we're going to have to go to a house of healing in town and pay some amount of money to bring them back to life. So do your best to not let any of your characters die. If your whole party gets wiped out, you will have to pay for Artho to come back to life, although restoring your main character is free, although you will lose half of your money when you die. And it looks like Artho is leveled up to level 4. No new spell this time. Over here on the other side of the tunnel, the monsters are a lot more dangerous, and they get much more deadly the closer and closer you get to town. Here we have the 3 cobras again. We will speed this up because we know what to do against them. But it looks like both of our characters got poisoned, and that's going to be a problem because I think we only have 1 more antidote herb. Yeah, that's the case alright. Well, we better heal Artho because our main hero has a ton more HP, so he can probably handle the poisoning. But we're going to have to be careful fighting stuff like these 4 magicians, which we can probably handle, but we do have to take them seriously, and now is the time to use that Fireball magic. Fireball is a damage type magic, so whenever you're looking at the enemy data on the left side of the screen, you can see that magicians have a 0% resistance to damage magic, and that's just how likely it is for the spell to miss. So 0% means that it will not miss, and if it was 100%, it would always miss. So when the percent is high, don't even try. If the percent is low, you're good to go. And with the conclusion of that battle, it seems that Artho also got leveled up to level 5, but no new spell with level 5. We will get a new spell at level 6, and it'd be nice to have it right now. It's actually the spell of Antidote. Well, in any case, now that we're here in town, we can head over to the House of Healing, and they'll be able to detoxify our hero. So if we talk to this guy, we'll be able to select Detoxicate, and 12 gold pieces. I'm doing it just to show you, but 12 gold pieces is a total ripoff to be detoxified. It only costs 8 gold pieces to go to the store and buy an antidote herb. So if you're ever poisoned, go to the store, don't go to the House of Healing. Up here we can find a wise old wizard that can actually save our game, and this is very important. Make sure that you do that, because that will set a return point. So if we use the Wing of the Wyvern item, we'll be able to come back to this town, and we won't go back to the Castle of Cannock way far away. You can see that we also have a friendly dog following us, and if we head over here, that's where you can actually play the lottery game. So if you've been wondering where you can do that, that is the place. That guy had a strange clue that some people in the town of Hamlin are not as they seem. Well, people and perhaps animals? Over here we'll find another important feature. This is where the item store is, and up above it is where you can buy weapons and armor. There are some good weapons and armor here, but it's very important that you buy a Wing of the Wyvern here if you don't already have one. It seems like we should probably grab a couple antidotes too, considering how big of a problem it was when we didn't have one before. Once you have the items that you need, we can check out the weapon and armor store. There is some really good stuff here, including the Iron Spear, which is the best melee weapon that the Prince of Cannock can use. However, this stuff is pretty expensive, and we would have to pawn a whole lot of lottery tickets to be able to get it. Speaking of lottery tickets, let's actually try out the real lottery. So it actually is more of a slot machine game, and there are 5 possible prizes. So let's see what happens. Whenever you spin the reels, you can actually stop them, but it's kind of difficult to stop them on whatever you want them to. If you're just visually looking for a cue, there's not a very good one. But one good thing is that if you get 2 of the same shape, you get a free ticket and can try again. If you really want to try the lottery, you should save the game first and just keep reloading the game every time you miss. But hopefully you may be able to get lucky here. The number 1 prize is the gold card, but I don't know that that's... Oh, okay, we won. 3 stars is actually probably a better prize than the gold card itself. You get the Wizard's Ring, and the Wizard Ring is an item that you can use to restore magic points, and I think it's the only one that does that. I'm going to hand it over to Artho, but I'm not going to actually use it because I don't want to assume anyone is going to play the lottery enough to be able to get that item. But let's take a look at what the other prizes are. 3 hearts get you a medical herb. A medical herb only costs 15 gold pieces, so it has a lower value than the lottery ticket itself. You should actively try to not win a medical herb. If you get 3 water drop symbols, you'll get a Dragon's Bane item, which is a pretty nice item that you can wear as equipment and will prevent sleep and stop spell against your characters. 3 moons get you the Wizard's Wand. The Wizard Wand is a weapon that you can use, and it's actually a decent weapon for the 3rd character that we're about to get. You know that the number 2 prize was the Wizard's Ring, and the number 1 prize is the gold card. The gold card reduces your cost at stores, which sounds awesome, but it's so hard to get the gold card. It took me a lot of saving and resetting to get it, and you can see how it works here. Whenever you try to buy something, he'll tell you that you get a discount, and it will actually let you buy stuff that it looks like you don't have enough money for, as long as the discount will cover it. As great as it sounds to save money at stores, Later in the game, I'm going to show you a great money-making trick that will make having a gold card pretty much pointless. So I wouldn't spend the time trying to win it, but if you want to spend a little bit of time playing the lottery, go for it. From here, we're going to stay at the inn, because we have some more adventuring to do. To be able to get the third character, we need to find an item called the Mirror of Ra. To find it, we're going to need to head south from the Town of Hamlin. A large group of big rats like this may not look very intimidating, but if a lot of attacks get thrown Artho's way, he could end up at very low health, and that's when you're going to have to make a judgment call. Should we continue attacking with Artho? Should we have him use fireball magic? Or should he use heal magic and try to restore some health? If it looks like the battle is going to go for a few more turns, he should definitely cast the heal magic, but if his attack or a fireball spell is likely to finish the battle, you should do that instead. And it looks like with this pretty bad battle, our hero rose to level 7. I think we should stop back into town and use the inn one more time after that one. If you're not very far away and you do take a bad battle, don't feel bad about walking back to town and using the inn. You can just pick up from where you left off right after you're done. So, we're going to head back out, and this time, hopefully we won't take any bad battles. We'll go across this bridge, and we're going to head down to this grassy area and make our way to the left. There are some very dangerous enemies in this area, but a single zombie like this is something that we can handle. This guy has a pretty high attack and decently high hit points, but his defense is low, so even the Prince of Cannock is going to be able to deal a decent amount of damage to this monster. Just keep your attacks up on this guy, and he'll go down pretty easily, and you actually get a good bit of experience points for fighting zombies. The monsters that you gotta watch out for are centipods and the blue version, the megapedes. Those guys have very high defense, so if you want to fight against centipods or megapedes, you're going to have to use magic. And here, speaking of magic, are 4 magic ants. Magic ants will try to make your team fall asleep, so that does represent a threat, but these guys are also worth very good experience points compared to how difficult it is to defeat them, so whenever I see a team of magic ants, I'm usually willing to take a chance and fight them. Sleep magic from enemies can be very dangerous. The good thing about magic ants is that they can't back it up with a very strong attack, so if your whole team falls asleep, the magic ants still can't deal a ton of damage to you, so they won't be able to take advantage of it. If magic ants were paired with some more dangerous enemies, something that actually does hit hard, like zombies or megapedes, that's when it gets concerning, and you should think about running away from those battles. And with that, it seems that Artho has been promoted to level 6, and at level 6 he gains the antidote magic, so now for 3 magic points, he can cure us from poison. This is great. We now don't have to carry around a bunch of antidote herbs. We can free up that item space for some other stuff. Of course, keep your health high between battles. And now if you face any enemies that poison you, you just don't have to worry about that so much anymore. It looks like once again we're fighting the magic ants. This time we are very close to our goal, so I don't feel bad about using fireball magic to try to make this one go a little bit faster, but it looks like they put the Prince of Cannock to sleep anyway, so he didn't get a chance to cast it. Take out the last magic ant, and the place that we're actually looking to go here is this small 4-square large patch of swamp. Swamps do deal you a small bit of damage when you walk on them, but if you search in that upper right corner, you'll find the Mirror of Ra, and once you find it, you can use the Wing of the Wyvern to return to the Town of Hamlin. With a mirror in hand, we're going to find the friendly dog in the Town of Hamlin, and whenever we use the mirror on this dog, she will turn into the Princess of Moonbrooke and join our party. Now you might be thinking, how would anybody have ever figured this out? How would you know to search in that swamp to find the mirror or any of this? Well, we walked by the castle of Moonbrooke as we headed to where that swamp was. If we had gone in there, and we will go in there later in the video, so don't worry that we're going to skip that entirely. It's actually more interesting to go in there later once you already have the princess. But if you go in there, you will get some clues to search in a swamp where you can see 4 bridges, and the king of Moonbrooke's ghost is in there and will tell you that his daughter has been transformed into a dog. So that's how you would figure all this stuff out, but we can skip all that for now. Just grab the mirror and finally get the 3rd and final character on our team. Once the princess is joined, you'll also see that she comes with the spell of Heal More, which is excellent. The spell of Heal More is just as good as a medical herb outside of battle, and inside of battle, it's even better. Of course, we should still try to use our healing magic when we're outside of battle, but if we did have to use it in battle, we'll be happy that it's more effective. With the princess on our team, we want to spend some time leveling her up, so it's time for another level grind, but we should be able to do it pretty quickly, starting with the monsters close to town. If we stay close to town, if anything bad happens, we'll be able to go back into town and heal up. So just spend some time around the town fighting the bad guys. If you need to use Heal More, use Heal More. If you run low on magic points, we'll just go back into town and use the inn. You'll notice that Gwen is not very effective in combat at all, so we're going to have her use the parry command. Whenever somebody parries, it will prevent half of the damage that they take from both physical attacks and magic attacks, but it doesn't prevent any damage from fire breath attacks, so that's the one small exception. The Princess of Moonbrooke takes a lot more experience points to level up than our other 2 characters, so although we're fighting more powerful guys here, she will take more points to get her to the next level. At level 2, however, she will gain her first offensive magic spell, the Spell of Sleep, and this is going to make her way more useful in combat. The Spell of Sleep targets all the enemies in the same group. It doesn't cost a whole lot of MP, and it will cause those monsters to lose at least 1 turn of combat, sometimes more. We know that making enemies lose their turn is pretty much the most important part of our strategy, so the sleep spell is going to be very useful unless the enemies we're fighting against are very high in their resistance to it. So we'll try it out against this team of big cobras, and it looks like they all fell asleep. Most of the enemies in this area have a 0 to 14% resistance to sleep magic, so if you cast it on them, you can almost guarantee they'll lose at least 1 turn. Later on in the game, the enemies are going to have a higher resistance to sleep magic, although not always, but something that you'll want to consider, even if an enemy has a 30 or even 40% resistance to sleep, if you're using it against a large enough group, you're going to get multiple chances. So whenever you use sleep against 3 different monsters here, each time you'll have a different chance to hit or miss. So as long as the enemies don't have a very high resistance, something in the 70% or higher, you may still want to try the sleep magic, although later in the game you'll have more options at your disposal, and it'll be likely that something else will be what you'll want to use. Just a few minutes ago, a team of 4 big rats was pretty dangerous for just Kylo and Artho to fight, but adding Gwen in there with her sleep magic, well, now they're not so difficult at all. This is a great place to level up, especially when the Princess of Moonbrooke's levels are low, and this is probably the most dangerous type of battle that you're going to fight, something that involves lizard flies and centipods. The hero, the Prince of Midenhall, is not going to be able to deal a ton of damage to a centipod because it has very high defense, so you're going to want to use Artho's Fireball on any centipods that you see. You gotta watch out for these lizard flies though, because they can use fireball magic on you, and it will ignore your defenses. So that can be pretty bad. After fighting these monsters though, we got a lot of experience points, and it looks like all 3 of our characters leveled up. So yeah, that is very awesome. You'll notice that the Princess of Moonbrooke very quickly gains magic points, so she's going to have a lot of MP to work with, which is going to be great as far as healing up our characters goes. At level 4, the Princess of Moonbrooke is going to learn a damage spell, Infernos, so we're trying to build her up to that, and then we will have a little bit more flexibility in where we can go to level up our characters. Be careful that you don't get involved in any fights that are just way too dangerous. Something with multiple healers as well as some other difficult enemies. Those are the kind of fights that you're going to want to avoid. So, just keep fighting the monsters around here. This is the kind of fight I'm talking about. 2 healers. 2 healers can certainly keep that zombie alive for a while, so you probably don't want to waste your time on a fight like that. And this time there's 3 lizard flies, so remember we need to use Fireball to take out the Centipod because his defense is so high. And the lizard flies are in a large group, so that's where we're going to want to use our sleep magic. Not all of the lizard flies were hit with the sleep magic because they actually have some resistance to it, but it's still good because they were in such a large group that there was a very good chance that 2 or even all 3 of them were going to get put to sleep. We can have Gwen parry here because we should be able to take these out in 1 or 2 more rounds. One of the best things about this particular level up spot is its proximity to the town of Hamlin. So if you ever get low on MP like we are now, you should feel free to walk back there and use the inn. And with that, Gwen is promoted to level 4, and this is where she gets the spell of Infernos. Infernos is awesome. It deals 11 to 39 damage to each of a group of enemies. So now we can use Infernos on those lizard flies and see how they like that. We're still going to have Artho cast Fireball on the Centipod, although Infernos would also work on him. However, that Centipod's only in a group of 1 right now, so we're just going to try to finish it off. Oh, wow, we got a critical hit. That was not how I expected to end that fight, but hey, it works out. We can now heal up our characters, make sure to keep their health high, and we probably need to walk back to town after all of that fighting. So head back, we're going to use the inn, and then I want to show you a different level grind spot. One that you might like better than that one, but it is a little bit farther away from town. So I like to kind of build up until we get the Princess of Moonbrooke to level 4, and then I'll try to move out and use some of these other spots. You could go over to this level grinding spot sooner, but the reason why I usually wait until the Princess of Moonbrooke gets up to level 4 is because of an enemy known as the Megapede. And here's one right now. Megapedes have extremely high defense, a lot more than the Centipods, so we really have no choice but to use some kind of damaging magic to be able to kill them. Well, until the Princess of Moonbrooke can cast the Inferno spell, the only one that can cast damage magic is Artho, so I like to make sure both of them can cast damaging magic before I head over here. In this battle, we encounter another new enemy type, a Smoke. Smokes can hit pretty hard, but they don't have very good defense, so we're going to have our hero fight him, and then we're going to concentrate the rest of our firepower on the magic ant so that it doesn't use sleep magic on us and make us lose turns. The babble can be almost ignored. If we do get poisoned, we have the antidote spell right now. At level 8, Artho gains stop spell magic. Stop spell is quite good against any enemies that do use magic, assuming that they're not resistant to it. If you cast stop spell on the enemy and their spell is blocked, they will still try to cast magic on you, and then they'll lose their turn because it will say, that spell was blocked. Whenever you fight magic ants now though, you mostly just want to have the Princess of Moonbrooke cast Infernos on them, which usually will clear them out in a single round. Our goal here in this level up area is to try to get our hero up to level 10 at a minimum. Level 11 would be even better. We want to mostly fight magic ants, you can fight megapedes, whatever you see over in this area is pretty good. The only enemies that are not great to fight are the army ants, and it's not that army ants are difficult to defeat, they're just not worth a whole lot of points, so it's more of a waste of time than anything. But you don't have to run away from them, just hit them with some Infernos magic and move on with your life. The other thing that we need to do is to build up 1,500 gold pieces so that we can purchase the broadsword. You may have noticed that we didn't buy any equipment for the Princess of Moonbrooke, and that's because none of the equipment in the Town of Hamlin can actually be equipped on her. We do have one weapon that she can use, the magic knife, but we need to get some new weapons for our other characters before we can pass it down to her. So just keep fighting these battles until you get level 10 and the 1,500 gold for the broadsword. You could use the lottery trick to try to get the money that you need, but it'll take a very long time to build up that much money with the lottery ticket trick. And with that, our hero has been raised to the 10th level, and we can go back to the town at this point. We definitely need to get some better equipment. Once we have that broadsword, that is going to change a lot for our team. The broadsword is significantly more powerful than the chain sickle that we have right now. It adds a whole 15 to our attack score, which is double what our weapon adds now. Once we're able to buy the broadsword, we can get rid of that bamboo spear that Gwen has been carrying around, and then we're going to pass the magic knife over to her. It's one of the best weapons that she can equip at this point in the game. And then we're going to hand the chain sickle down to Arthos so that he can equip that. And then we're going to use the broadsword on our main hero. If you had the money for it, you would want to buy the iron spear now and have Artho equip that. But if you don't, then the chain sickle will be fine for now. Would also love to be able to afford the full plate armor or the steel shield, but for now those items are pretty expensive, so if you don't have the cash for them, don't worry too much about it. As long as you have the broadsword, we should have good enough equipment to go into the next dungeon. The next dungeon is actually one that we could have completed earlier in the game, but now that we have 3 characters that have been leveled up a bit, it's going to be way easier. We're going to need to do a little bit of backtracking, so we'll stay at the inn first, and then we're going to head north from the Town of Hamlin and go back to the tunnel that we got here through. One zombie, not a big threat anymore. We do want to save some of our magic points at this point. We are going to be going into a dungeon, and we have a little bit of a walk to go here, so for now we can just have everybody fight. If it doesn't look important to have the Princess of Moonbrooke to fight, you can have her parry, so don't be afraid to do that. If the monsters attack a character that's parrying, it's almost like they wasted their turn because they're not going to be able to deal a whole lot of damage. So parrying is actually pretty good. It's just not something that you'll usually do with your main hero. We almost always want to have him attacking. It's more for the other 2 characters whenever they don't have anything better to be doing. So we're going to make our way up here, head back to that tunnel. Most of the enemies, once you get closer to the tunnel, are going to be very easy. I mean, big slugs. Come on, we can definitely handle big slugs at this point. Just take them out. No need to run away. Might as well collect up some experience points, and yeah, maybe we'll find some money too. We do need some money to be able to buy better armor and maybe a better shield, but we are going to be able to get away with not having those items for now. So we're just going to travel through this tunnel, make your way to the upper right corner and go through the stairs. Oh, we did hit a battle in here. 3 ghost mice. Alright. Still not dangerous enough that we need to use our Infernos magic. Ghost mice, not very tough. So we'll just knock these guys out, save our magic points for healing ourselves for now. And once these guys are defeated, we're going to head up the stairs, and that's going to take us to that monolith on the other side. It looks like Gwen has made it to level 6, and at level 6 she gets a new spell, the Spell of Surround. When enemies attack you, they have a 1 in 64 chance to miss, so it doesn't happen very frequently, it's less than 2%. But if you cast the Spell of Surround on them, suddenly they'll have a 25% chance to miss. Now, I still don't think that's good enough to make the spell, like, great or anything, but sometimes you'll fight monsters that have very high resistances against most of the other magics, and maybe you would want to use the Spell of Surround in that case. There are a few corner cases where it's helpful. As far as the Princess of Moonbrooke's magic goes, though, would you rather have the enemies completely miss their turn with the sleep spell, get killed by an Inferno spell, or have a 1 in 4 chance to miss their attack from the surround spell? Yeah, one of those 3 is not quite as good as the other 2. We are now making our way to the Lake Cave, which is located to the far west of where Cannock Castle is. So we emerged from that tunnel that we took to the Town of Hamlin, and we're just trying to go west and north, so left and up whenever you can, and try to stay on the green grassy areas so that you don't fight too many monster encounters. When you see the double bridge, that's what you're looking for. And here it is, the Lake Cave. This place would have been much more difficult if we had come here earlier when we were just a team of 2, but now that we have the full squad together and we took some time to level up, the monsters should be afraid of us. You actually want to go left right there, but if we head over here to the right, we can find a chest filled with gold. And case in point about this place being a lot easier than it would have been earlier, 3 big cobras would have been dangerous for just Kylo and Artho, but now we have Gwen who can cast the spell of Infernos and just wipe them out, and although she got poisoned, well, Artho can now cast the antidote spell, so we can handle that pretty easily too. Just take care of Gwen, we don't want her to get poisoned out. And if we head down here, we can grab this chest filled with gold. Although these treasure chests with gold in them, they're usually pretty disappointing. I mean, 24 pieces of gold? That's like not even the price of half a lottery ticket, and is almost not worth picking up. We definitely know what to do against 2 ghost mice. Just attack, attack, attack. And what we need to do here on this floor is make our way to the lower left corner where we're going to find a stairway, and that'll take us down to the 2nd level. On the 2nd level of the Lake Cave, the enemies are a little bit different, so it's not the exact same enemy set, but they're still pretty easy. Down here, we're looking for a very important item, the Silver Key. I'm not going to say that the Silver Key is a strictly mandatory item, because if you would take the time to level up to obscenely high levels in the early game, eventually you will get a spell that will let you open doors with spells instead of keys, but you'll get that spell so deep into the game that it's not going to be a reliable way to open the doors, so we definitely need to get the Silver Key out of this cave if we're going to want to be able to get anywhere in this game. And here in this battle, we've met the army ants. Now, I mentioned these guys before whenever we were trying to level up near the city of Hamlin. The army ants have low HP, they're not very hard to defeat. The only annoying thing about the army ants is that they will often call in more army ants to help out, and there can end up being a whole bunch of those guys on the screen by the time they're done. so it can take a little while to finish off a team of army ants. That's why I recommend using the Infernos magic, which will usually just get them all in one move. They're not worth a lot of experience points or gold, so it may actually be a good idea to just run away from those guys, but it's easy enough to just cast one magic spell and finish them off. Down in this corner you'll find a Wing of the Wyvern and some gold. I definitely recommend that you walk over there and grab those unless you have one already. Once we get finished with this dungeon, we are going to want to use a Wing of the Wyvern to get back to the city of Hamlin instead of having to go all the way through the Hamlin tunnel and all that stuff to get back there. So make sure to pick up that wing, and our actual destination is down this way. A few more easy battles. This time we can use Infernos to get rid of those magicians. They can cast magic against us, which is dangerous. And we're going to head down here, another battle. Come on, we'll just speed these up. Certainly we're not very worried about big rats anymore. They were kind of tough when we were like level 5. Oh, we got an extra Wing of the Wyvern, so that's nice. And down here in the next room, if we get through the transition, which we did, this is the chest we were looking for. This one contains the silver key. Now, we don't have the spell of outside yet, and you can't use your Wing of the Wyvern when you're inside. You can try to use it, and if you do, you'll lose it and you won't go anywhere, so don't do that. Instead, you just need to backtrack all the way out of the cave. If you do get killed, you'll actually come back in the Town of Hamlin and you'll still have the silver key, so it's actually not the worst thing that could happen. But now is a great time to just keep fighting some enemies, try to gain some extra experience points, and as soon as you get outside of the lake cave, we're going to use that Wing of the Wyvern and warp back to the Town of Hamlin. In later versions of the game, you'll be able to actually choose which city you warp to. You'll be able to go to places that you visited before. But in this game, you only have one possible destination, and it's the last place that you saved the game. So you need to be very careful about where you are saving the game, because where the Wing of the Wyvern or the return spell takes you back to will be very important moving forward. After a quick stop at the inn, it's time to go on another adventure, and this time we're going to head a bit north from the city of Hamlin, but we're going to go into the forest over to the right of the city and take that path that we haven't gone on so far. You'll see that there is a bridge that we can cross, but you don't actually want to cross that bridge. You just want to stay up above it and continue following the forest. So just follow the forest along this river, and there's the bridge that we want to cross, so cross over this bridge, and then we're going to follow the coastline down to the south. If you're looking at the map, we're going to the place called Wind Tower, or the Tower of Wind, whatever you want to call it. Inside that tower, we're going to find a mandatory item called the Cloak of Wind that we're not going to be able to move forward in the game without. There's no spell that we can get that will replace this one. Now, if you have to fight baboons can hit pretty hard, so you'll want to make sure that you take them out. However, in this particular combination, the lizard fly is also very dangerous because it can cast offensive magic. So we are going to have our casters use something on those baboons and have our main hero take out the lizard fly. You do want to try to conserve some of your magic points here because we are heading to a dungeon, but our casters actually have a decent amount of MP now, so we can use our spells a little bit more liberally. Might be a good idea to throw a spell of sleep on the lizard fly here, try to just take him out of a round of combat while we have our other characters get rid of the baboon, and then we should be able to clean up the rest of this fight in one more round. Our hero at level 10 can certainly hit hard enough to take out centipods, so they aren't the threat that they were earlier in the game. And that's the best way to handle a battle like that. The sand and the forest have the same encounter rate, so it's pretty much the same as you come down here. We are going to head to an area where we'll have a choice of which direction that we want to go, and we're going to want to take the southern path, because that'll take us through some grass instead of across the mountainy hills. and we'll avoid some encounters that way. But for now, just keep following the trees. Magidraki is not an enemy we fought a lot of. Those guys can actually use spells against you, but they're not very powerful and should go down to a single attack. So you don't have to be too worried about them. Get some pretty decent experience points from that fight. And down here, we're just going to cross over that bridge and try to get out of the hills as quickly as possible so we don't have to take a ton of encounters in here. 2 centipods certainly warrants a casting of Infernos. Don't sleep on that magic ant though. Magic ants can make your guys fall asleep, and that's pretty bad news when they're paired with other monsters. Magic ants sound kind of like some kind of product that you'd see on a commercial late at night, like, is your house a mess? You need magic ants. Regular ants can only lift 8 times their body weight, but magic ants can lift 8,000 times their body weight, putting regular ants to shame. Order now and get a second set of magic ants for free, just pay shipping and handling. What will you do with a second set of magic ants? I don't know. Take them to work, have them clean your friend's house, make them do the weird stuff that your wife won't do. With magic ants, the choice is yours. And after that battle, it seems that our hero has leveled up to level 11, and he's getting very powerful now. We'll just follow along here, a couple more of those magic ants, take them out. You can even use your stop spell magic, not a bad idea against these guys. They do try to cast sleep spells on you, and stop spell can be an effective way to deal with that. Cross these couple bridges, and down here is where that path forks. Stay down on the lower route. A single Babel? Come on, man. You should not have messed with us, Babel. Alright, once that guy's gone, now we're going to take the lower path, as I was explaining before I was rudely interrupted. And here is the Tower of Wind. There are a lot of paths in here, and many of them lead to dead ends. The way that we need to go is in the upper right corner, but before we go up there, we can stop down at the bottom of the first floor, where we can open up a treasure chest and grab an extra medical herb. Might not really be worth heading all the way down here to get this medical herb, but it's not terrible to fight some monsters and gain some experience, so we'll stop down this way. The enemies on this floor of the tower are very similar to the ones that we were fighting outside, but whenever you get to the higher levels of the tower, you'll start to fight some slightly more difficult monsters. Now, 4 zombies split into 2 groups, you probably want to run away from them. Once we grab this medical herbage, which is totally optional, you don't have to get this, instead of walking all the way back to the upper right corner, we can just touch the green part here and you'll immediately exit the tower and we can go back inside. That's probably a bit of a shortcut after collecting that herb. The actual way we want to go is to the right of those stairs and then up these stairs in the upper right corner. For a fight like this, we're going to have Gwen use Infernos on the largest group, assuming that that group isn't extremely resistant to damage magic. And then we're going to have our hero and the Prince of Cannock concentrate their attack on the zombie to finish him off. It seems like the zombie decided to parry this round, although he's the only monster left alive, so that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Should have probably ran away, zombie. This stairway is marked A on the map, and if you want to know the best way to go, you just want to follow the letters in the white circles, and they're also capital letters. The ones in the yellow circles will take you to places that you don't need to go. Now, this battle we can probably win, but it's certainly pushing it, so it's one that we should consider running away from. All the zombies are grouped into one group, so we can use Infernos to deal a decent amount of damage to each one, and then attacks from the Prince of Midenhall should take out the zombies, but it looks like our first attack failed to kill any of them. Our Princess of Moonbrooke is low on health, so what we're going to do is have Artho heal her and have her parry, so if an enemy attacks her, she doesn't immediately die. This seemed to be a good plan because you can see that she did take an attack but only took 4 damage, and she would have taken 8 damage if she was not parrying there. So although we could have had her cast heal more on herself, it was better to have her parry and have Artho cast the healing spell on her so that she can defend herself. In all seriousness though, it may have been a good idea to run from that battle, but we did level up, and now the Prince of Cannock has reached level 10 and he learns a new spell, the Spell of Return, which works the same as those Wing of the Wyverns, so now we don't have to carry a bunch of them in our inventory anymore. 2 smokes and 2 zombies. I think we learned our lesson from the previous one. We're gonna run away from that fight. And down here on the right side of the 3rd floor, we'll find a treasure chest that contains some gold. It might seem like the plan is to go all the way to the top of this tower where you will find a treasure chest, but that treasure chest is a trick. It's completely empty. So I didn't even include all of the different stairways that will lead you to the top. Instead, what we're going to do is we're only going to go to the 5th floor, and we're going to look for a stairway that'll take us back down, and we're actually going to work our way back to the 1st floor, which is where the Cloak of Wind is hidden. This smaller group with fewer zombies and smokes is definitely something we can attack. So we'll fight these guys and get a decent amount of experience points for them. And we want to go to this stairway. We do have a choice here. Take the first stairway that you see on this floor. 3 zombies all grouped together are prime targets for the Inferno spell, although Gwen is getting a little bit low on magic points, so we are going to have to take that into consideration. We don't have to go too much farther to get the Cloak of Wind, but if we do, we're going to have to be more conservative with the Princess of Moonbrooke's magical attacks. Whenever you're in this dungeon, it's probably a good idea to have the Prince of Cannock be doing most of the healing outside of battle. We want to save a lot of our offensive magic for the Princess of Moonbrooke to be able to use, because she's not very good at attacking, and her Inferno spell is one of the best ones that we have right now. So we'll make our way to this stairway, and then we're just going to follow the path. There's only one way that we can go in most of these areas. This is going to take us down, down, down to the 1st floor. You can't really mess it up from here. And inside this treasure chest, we will find the Cloak of Wind. So that's what we came for. Now you don't have to backtrack the entire way out of the tower. If you can get up to a floor where you can walk off the side, you'll be able to exit the tower just by walking into the blue space over to the left. Now, ghost rats are a new monster that we haven't fought yet, and these guys can call more ghost rats to help them, so they are quite dangerous, and it is a good idea to use all of your powerful magic against these guys, or just run away. At this point, since we have the cloak already, we don't have to be very conservative with magic anymore. We just need to get out of here and then warp ourselves back to the Town of Hamlin. So once you walk off the side, you'll be outside of the dungeon, and then we can use either the Wing of the Wyvern, or you can have Artho cast the Return spell, if you have it. I used the Wing because I'm not going to assume that anybody watching this definitely has level 10 on the Prince of Cannock yet, so use a Wing of the Wyvern if you need to, but if you have the Return spell, feel free to use it instead. And once we're back in the Town of Hamlin, we're going to use the inn. We can sell some things that we don't need anymore, and if we have the money, now might be a good time to buy the full plate armor. It only costs 1,000 gold pieces. The full plate armor has more than double the defense of the chainmail that our main hero is currently wearing. Unfortunately, none of the other characters can wear full plate armor, so only our hero can use it. It is a good idea to at least get the full plate armor here though, because it won't be long before we're fighting the game's first boss, so we do want to be ready for that. So we're going to head in the same direction that we went whenever we were going to that second level grinding spot in this area. Oh, here's quite an interesting battle. Baboons with 2 centipods and a lizard fly. Yeah, this would have been a very tough one earlier on when we were just leveling up, but now that we're more powerful, we shouldn't have too much trouble with these guys. We want to work our way back to where the Castle of Moonbrooke is. So you might not remember where that was when we went by it earlier. When we had gone to get the Mirror of Ra, we did walk by it. So we're heading in that general direction. And near that castle, we're going to find another one of those monoliths. And if we head through that monolith, it's going to take us to an entirely different continent. And 2 baboons, no big deal. Do take them seriously, but we can use a pretty good amount of magic points here. We don't have that far to go. Feel free to roast these guys with some fire magic if you need to. And just clean them up with the attacks from your hero and the Prince of Cannock. Keep your characters healed up outside of battle so that you don't have to waste turns inside a battle using healing magic, even if the spell of Heal More does heal more points when used in battle. 4 big rats, no big deal. Just knock these guys off. And one of them actually ran away. You'll know that you're a lot stronger than the enemies when they start running away. That usually is only an option whenever your hero's attack score is more than double the attack score of that monster. And not all monsters can even run away, so a lot of them will still have to just stand there and take a beating, even if you're way more powerful than them. Take out these magic ants. We don't want to all fall asleep, but I doubt that the magic ants would be able to kill us even if they did knock us all out. And it appears that Gwen has gained another level. So she goes up to level 7. Not a big increase at level 7, but she will get another spell whenever she gets to level 8. If you're looking at the map on the left side of the screen, the place that we're going to is marked 2 Dragon's Horn. The Dragon's Horn is the name of a set of twin towers, which is the next dungeon that we have to go through. And because we have the Cloak of Wind, we'll actually be able to complete the Dragon's Horn. If you didn't get that yet, you won't be able to pass through. And here are a few more of those ghost rats. Don't forget that these guys will try to summon help, so you'll want to use your more powerful magics against them. And we found a medical herb. Alright, thank you so much. In here, there's an old man just hanging out. He tells us that if we have trouble, we should visit the House of Healing. Are you like advertising for those guys or something? Whoa. Now this we should run away from. Remember that your chance to escape from a battle is 2 out of 3, so that's better than a coin flip. If you try to run away, it's very rare that you would have to run more than 3 times to escape any battle. So unless you're very unlucky, 1 or 2 runs should do it. All of these ghost rats were actually grouped together, so that's pretty good for casting Infernos. We may need to cast it twice though to take out this group. Well, there's only 2 left, so actually we probably don't need to cast it here, but just in case they were to summon another ghost rat, well, it didn't happen in the right order, but if they would have summoned that ghost rat before Gwen used her Infernos magic, it would have been swallowed up in the Infernos as well. And it looks like Gwen is going to need a heal, but we killed so many ghost rats in that battle that our main hero leveled up to level 12. One thing that you will notice is that if you fight more monsters in one battle, they will have a small bonus amount of experience points that's added on. And the more monsters that there are, the higher that bonus will be. So keep that in mind. That's a good incentive to fight a lot of monsters at once. But whenever you see a full screen filled with monsters, unless they're ones that you know you can handle, you probably need to run away. And as we get farther and farther away from the town of Hamlin, the monsters are going to get more difficult here. And you can see that you can pretty reasonably expect to escape from battles if you run multiple times. Don't be afraid to use that run command, even if you already started a battle but it went really poorly for you. If some of your characters are asleep or maybe close to death, you can still run and you will always have that same 2 out of 3 chance to escape. There is a bit of human psychology that will make you feel like once you've committed attacks to a battle that you have to finish it, but if it's going bad, just run away and live to fight another day. It'll give you a lot of good opportunities to heal your characters outside of battle instead of hoping that they get their turn in the right order to be able to heal up before they get killed. Now here we have a new enemy type that we haven't seen yet called a Carnivog. Carnivogs can make your characters fall asleep, which is dangerous, but they do it without casting a sleep spell. Instead they use a sleep breath attack. Because they're using a sleep breath attack, you won't be able to use the stop spell magic to prevent them from using their sleep attack, and it wouldn't work anyway because these guys actually have 100% resistance to stop spell. But if it did, that would not stop them from doing their sleep attack anyway. Of the enemies that were there, they were probably the lowest priority one for us to fight. So whenever you're fighting Carnivogs, just be concerned about the possibility of them putting your characters to sleep. And if some of the other monsters are very dangerous, you might want to prioritize getting rid of those Carnivogs first. Whew, 4 Megapeds. 4 Megapeds pretty much requires that we cast the Spell of Infernos, but the Spell of Infernos is amazing against them, and this should yield a ton of experience points. So if you see that 4 Megapede battle, yeah, go for it. Get them with the Infernos and make sure to use some kind of antidote to heal up the poison afterwards, although it seems that Artho was getting low on magic points, so used up one of our antidote herbs instead. We still have to get through this tower, and it's not a very long dungeon, but we are getting low on magic points. Maybe should have been a bit more conservative up until this point, but we are gaining a lot of experience and we even gained a few levels, so it was probably worth it in the long run. And here it is, the Southern Tower of the Dragon's Horn. Using the Cloak of Wind will equip it, and I'm going to do that now so that I don't forget to do it later. If we talk to this guy, well, he'll tell us that these towers are known as the Dragon's Horn, and yeah, we do know what you know because you just told us, man. What a weirdo. In any case, we need to take the stairway and stay out of that pit in the middle. If you accidentally walk into there, you're going to go back a floor, and you don't want to do that. Instead, you want to carefully walk around and make your way to the stairway on each floor. 2 baboons and 5 healers? Well, we may be able to fight those healers using damage magic, but they do have some resistance to it, so it's probably a good idea to just run away from those guys. Just keep following the path around the pit in the center of each room, and here's a new enemy type, the Medusa Balls, but it's probably good to just run away from that one. We're already getting low on magic points, and the enemies on the other side of this tower are going to be even more difficult than the ones in here. Alright, here's 4 Medusa Balls. Let's try fighting these guys. We can actually use our own sleep magic on them, although they will try to use sleep magic on us too, so it's kind of dangerous. The sleep magic is very effective against the Medusa Balls, so when they're all collected into one group like this, we can easily fight them by having Gwen use sleep and just have everybody else attack. Gwen can't do a lot of damage, but if all the Medusa Balls are asleep, there's no reason why she shouldn't try to attack and just get a couple more pieces of chip damage in there. And after a few rounds, it shouldn't be too hard to take these out. You don't want to fight too many Medusa Balls combined with other more dangerous enemies because, similar to magic ants, If they put you to sleep, then the other more dangerous enemies will mess you up, but when you're just fighting Medusa balls, they're not as bad on their own. We got 188 experience points through that battle, so I'm pretty sure that was worth it. We didn't even have to use a lot of Gwen's magic points because the spell of sleep is so undercosted. We don't have too many more floors that we need to get through here. So just keep on climbing the tower. You will know when you got to the top because it's the only floor that looks a lot different from the other ones. Oh, here's this baboon healer thing again. No, we don't want to fight 5 healers. And here's the top. Make sure that you have the Cloak of Wind equipped and then jump off the north side. When you have the Cloak of Wind equipped, it will make you move 3 spaces from where you jumped, and so that will put us firmly on the other side of the river, and now we can continue to Lianport. On the way to Lianport, there are even more dangerous enemies that we have to battle, and these Mudman enemies are some of the worst. They can do a move where it says they dance a strange jig, and there it is, and then your characters will lose a ton of magic points. So this can really mess you up. Whenever you see these Mudman enemies, you want to either run away or focus a lot of your firepower on the Mudmen so that they don't have a lot of chances to do their strange jig attack. There are actually a number of other enemies in this game that have a similar look to the Mudmen, so they look kind of like weird marionettes. Anytime you see an enemy like that, it will have the capability of doing that strange jig attack, so you may want to consider running away anytime you see something like that, because losing your magic points is almost as bad as losing one of your characters completely. Well, we can use a medical herb because we don't have any magic points left to use. If you did get some wizard rings from the lottery, now could be a good time to use them, but I'm not going to assume that you had those. And this brings us to the town of Lianport, and with these low MP scores, the first thing that we're going to want to do is use the inn. We have to pay for 3 people now at the inn, but whatever. We will pay whatever price they ask to get our magic points back. I had mentioned before that we were about to fight the game's first boss battle, and it's going to happen right here in this very town. You may not have expected to be fighting a boss battle in a town, but that's exactly what's going to happen here. If you need the House of Healing, it's over here. The only thing you would really need to use it for would be to revive a dead character. Remember that if they're poisoned, you're better off just buying an antidote herb or having someone cast an antidote spell. The boss battle takes place in the upper left corner, so we're going to avoid that area for now and chat with the other people in town. There's a place here where you can play the lottery if you have a ticket, and if we talk to this guy, he tells us that he never lends boats to strangers, so that's unfortunate. Would really like to have a boat. This guy says that the king of Cannock Castle has disappeared, and if he would just move out of the way, we can actually go to the item shop here. At this item shop, we would ideally like to sell whatever items we need so that we can buy a new piece of armor for Gwen. So if you have any superfluous items that you don't need, extra things that you got in treasure chests that enemies dropped, we're going to need 1,250 gold to be able to buy this armor. So if you can cobble that amount of money together, that would be great. You don't have to get this armor, but if you can afford it, it's definitely going to be worth it. You'll see that there's another item they sell here, the Dragon's Bane. Dragon's Bane is an extra item that you can equip on any of your 3 characters that will help them prevent getting put to sleep or having stop spell cast against them. But the thing that we really want are these Clothes of Hiding. The Clothes of Hiding will give Gwen a dodge rate of 1 in 8 instead of 1 in 64, which is just a massive upgrade. She may actually be able to dodge some attacks now, which is nice. And on top of that, it's actually pretty good defense. So if she does take a hit, it'll be reduced by a good amount. As soon as you're ready, you can head over here to the upper left corner, and it's time to fight the boss, 2 gremlins. Now these guys are not very resistant to surround magic, so you may want to try that in the first round of combat, especially considering that these guys may take a few rounds to kill. We might actually get some mileage out of that surround casting. After that though, just have Artho use Fireball magic, have Gwen use Infernos, and have your hero attack, and these guys should go down fairly quickly. With these levels, they should be no problem. And it looks like with that, Artho has been promoted to level 11, which is nice, but that's not the big draw here. Defeating this boss will unlock the ship, and this is going to allow us to explore the seas. Now that we have this ship, we are going to be able to go almost anywhere we want. We still can't get to the very last area of the game, but we are going to have a ton of freedom now. Before we leave town, if we sail down here, we can use our silver key. I'm not sure that we've actually used it at all so far, but we'll use it now. It's not used up when you use it, so you can use it as much as you want. And if you talk to this guy, he tells us a tale of a sunken ship called the Relentless, and if we can find that shipwreck, he'll be able to give us a reward. Once we're done talking to that guy, we can exit the town through the upper right corner, and now the seas are open to our command. Now at the beginning of the video, I promised that there was a trick that you could use to eliminate all enemy encounters, and to do it, all you have to do is enter your name as Tut, T-U-T, all capitals, and then choose fast message speed. You'll notice as you leave the castle of Midenhall that monsters just won't attack you anymore. Pretty crazy. As awesome as this sounds, you'll quickly realize that as much as it's a blessing, it's also a curse. At some point in the game, you're going to have to fight a boss, and all of your characters are going to be at level 1, but that's not even the worst part. If you actually do make it this far and fight the gremlin boss, the game will lock up and you'll have to reset. So here's what you should do instead. Go to the King of Cannock and talk to him, but don't save the game. If you save the game, it will turn off the encounter elimination and you'll be able to fight monsters normally. That means that if we do a bunch of steps before we save the game, we'll be able to get way ahead before we have to fight any monsters. So you can go talk to the King of Cannock, then talk to the guy at the Spring of Bravery, recruit Artho, or he's Bran in this case because our name is different. And then from here we can go and get the Mirror of Ra, or actually, since we don't have to fight any enemies, it probably makes sense to go and grab the silver key first. You won't be able to do the lottery trick. The lottery trick requires random numbers, so you won't be able to get any tickets whenever you use this encounter elimination trick. You also won't be able to get the Dew Yarn item, which is something that we don't have yet, but it's worth mentioning. If you want to get a bunch of money, the easiest way to do it is to go to this room in the lake cave and just keep picking up these same 2 treasure chests. One of them contains a Wing of the Wyvern and the other one contains some gold. And once you sell the Wing of the Wyvern, you'll net about 100 gold each time you come down here, but you do have to walk all the way in and out each time. However, if you do this, you can just walk right over to the Town of Hamlin and buy some of the most awesome equipment in the game while your characters are still at level 1. You can also get the Cloak of Wind, and once you have all that stuff, well, now would be a good time to come to Cannock Castle, talk to the king, and actually save the game, which will turn off the code, and then you can start fighting monsters as normal, but with all the great gear and a full team, so you'll be able to level up very, very quickly. So using this trick is a good way to get a jump start on the game, and it could be a fun, different way to play it. And that's the end of part 1 of this video. Make sure to check out the epic conclusion in part 2, where we'll find a way to make tons of money, we'll explore the seas, we'll find the 5 crests, and then we'll finally take down Hargan once and for all. You won't want to miss it.